Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are going to talk about 5 things that I do to prepare for the upcoming garden season, and this particular video is going to really talk more about seed starting and some of the things that you can go ahead and start working on now while we are in winter months, and you can have all of this prep ready for you to get started, and hopefully this will help you to be a little bit more successful and organized for the next growing season. All right, so you will see me looking down at my phone because I have to make a list to stay on task. Because if you've been around a long time, I actually really love to chat and I'll get off the subject so quickly, and so I thought that I would put these things in my phone. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Now, these are just a few of the things that I am thinking through right now for my own homestead. However, there are so many other things that you can be doing to prepare, and other things that other people may be doing that may not be on this list, that may be different. So again, you know, YouTube University is a huge place, and so definitely find some videos that help you. I just know for me, going into a new growing season, this is just kind of the things that I'm thinking about right now. So want to preface with this really quickly. I started growing in my suburban backyard probably about 4 seasons ago, or 4 years ago, and it was around 2020 when, you know, everything was happening with the world, and I decided I want to be able to grow my own food. This is when we really couldn't find a lot of food in the stores. We really weren't going to the stores. I personally wasn't going to the stores. My husband would go. I stayed away from it, me and my kids. And so I'd been watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and I thought, I can do this, right? So we started, and I'll try to pop some pictures and things of just kind of the evolution of our gardens. We're now on a new property, so it is definitely different, but just kind of where we started with 2 beds. And I'll be honest with you guys, I started out by making my own soil, and nothing really worked. I had a couple of cucumber plants because they were the only plants that I could find at my local big box store. At this point, I really didn't know much about seed starting. I didn't really know a lot of options for different, you know, plants, tomatoes. I didn't know that there were a ton of different tomatoes out there, or cucumbers, or all the things. So I just had to go with what was left at my big box stores. I know a lot of plants like cucumbers and tomatoes and peppers thrive in the summer months. It was just really too hot for them to get going. So that was kind of the first time that I was just left with, man, you know, I started gardening too late in the season. And then as I was gardening, as I was going through that, I'd already decided, okay, let me do some more research. Let me figure this out, because I knew that I wanted to continue gardening because it was something that I really enjoyed doing. So that next season, I decided I am going to start seeds. Like, I'm going to do my own seed starting. I got all the seed starting stuff, got the little greenhouse you put in your house, you know, the lighting, all the things, and started my seeds too early. So I ended up still having to go to my local nursery to buy plants, and I spent so much money buying plants, and I still didn't have the amount of plants that I really needed to grow what I really needed to grow. So then the next season, you know, things with life, and at this point I had made a plan to purchase all of my starts from my local nursery. And I will go ahead and say this, guys, if that is what you decide to do, absolutely do it. I am by no means saying that you cannot go to your local nursery or your big box store like a Home Depot or Lowe's or Tractor Supply and buy your starts if that's what you want to do. Now, I will also say this, if I am planting or starting seeds and they, for whatever reason, something doesn't work out, I am absolutely going to go to my local nursery or my big box store, because I would rather have that plant than cry over the plant not working. That leads me to another point. Y'all, Seed starting it's a lot sometimes. One of the things that I do well is I can start the seed well. I can keep the seed going. I can create the most beautiful plants from seed. However, my lighting, I don't get quite right because I end up with them always getting a little bit more leggier than I want them to. I would prefer to have stocky kind of short plants, and we'll talk about that in other videos. But the harding off process is always what gets me. So as I'm going through this with you guys, because again, this is going to kind of be a series, because what I'm wanting to do this upcoming year is really journal from beginning to end my garden process and what's working, what's not just for you all to see it, but also for me to be able to say, okay, this is where I started, this is where it ended. One thing that I have never really done for my garden is journal it. And so that is what I am working on for my garden this upcoming year. And with that, it starts with what I am planning and how I'm organizing things right now. So I say to you again, now is the time to really start working on your garden plan. Whether you choose to start seeds, whether you choose to just buy them from your local nursery. If you're planning to buy them from your local nursery or your local big box store, make sure you start calling around right now to see when they're anticipating on having their vegetable starts. Because one thing that I ran into last year is my local nursery that I typically pick mine up from got their starts super late, and they didn't order as many as they typically do. So it was literally sparse. Like, I barely got anything that I wanted. And then the prices basically doubled. Y'all, that's another thing when you're thinking about seed starting. And when you're thinking about that compared to buying already transplanted, plants. Now, I will also say this as a beginner gardener, just purchasing plants really helped me because it wasn't overwhelming. I know now that I have that option if I want it, but I also know now that there are so many different varieties that I really want to try, and so it would be beneficial for me to go ahead and start a lot of those things myself. So that all goes with planning and prepping. If you decide that you want to do, you want to move forward with seed starting, you need to be working on your seed starting station. Where do you plan to put that? What do you plan to do? Do you plan to get like a greenhouse that you can purchase off of Amazon for inside? Are you planning to get grow lights, or are you planning to get lights that, you can pick up in different places? So that is I'm not going to necessarily go through every single thing I use for my seed starting station. There's a lot of different options out there. However, we will be doing another video, and once I get my seed starting station set up, I'll show you what I'm working with and what has worked for me for years. The containers, whether, I'm going to use soil blocking, soil, all of those things. We'll go deeper into that. But right now, I just want to talk about the things that you really need to start thinking about. When we're talking about seed starting, if this is something that you plan to do, typical tomatoes, peppers, those things typically need to be started, and I'm only going by what is on seed packages. I know that, other people have their different ways of doing it, so this is not something that I want you guys to think this is the end all be all. This is just my experience, so please understand that, if you put something in the comments, just know that I'm speaking from my experience and not from someone else's. But when you're thinking about all of those things, most tomatoes and peppers on the back of their packages are actually going to tell you that they need to be started indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your estimated frost date. So I am in Mississippi, and I am zone 7A, B, 8 A, because it changed. I'm just all over in that. However, when I go to Farmer's Almanac, and I will try to put that in the description so that you guys can go there. You can put in your zip code and we'll actually tell you what your last estimated frost date is and your first estimated frost date for 2024. That information is going to be super, super important. You can also go to Johnny Seeds. I'll put that information in the comments as well. And you can find a lot of information there. And you can also find guides that will kind of show you, you know, the different plants and when they should be started, when you should direct sow them, when you should transplant them. So again, first step right now and what you should be thinking about is planning and preparing your seed starting station if you choose to start seeds, and also planning for if you choose to just buy transplants. All right, so next thing that I would say is very important to me and what I'm thinking about right now is deciding the seeds that you want to start. That kind of goes back into you really need to decide what you want in your garden. It makes no sense for me to grow a million things in my garden that my family does not eat. Prime example, I typically, even if I do squash, cucumbers, all of those things, I direct sow those, and we'll talk more about that as well for my beginners. But one thing that I struggled with a lot is that in my household, my family doesn't eat a lot of squash or zucchini. One of the things that I struggle with a lot here in Mississippi in my zone is squash bugs. And so I have to decide if that is something that I want to write on my list of plants that I want to grow this year, because it may just be easier for me to purchase those from a local farmer as opposed to even dealing with the dreaded vine borers and squash bugs. Yes, trust me, if you're a beginner, you will learn about bugs that you have never known anything about when you start. Yeah, did you know about the cucumber beetle? Sure, you've never heard of that, but let me just tell you, they're out there. They're not fun. They're not the good guy. So again, right now, you really want to start deciding on the seeds that you want to start. Now, to piggyback off that, if you do not have those seeds in stock, now I am going to share, and I put these back here for a reason. These are my seeds that I have right now. I have some seeds that are a little bit older, and I have some brand new seeds that I've already started to purchase. A lot of my seeds, I do a germination test because my packet may say 2021. However, those seeds still germinate. Some of them may be a little bit slower. So I'm kind of going through here now and just deciding which ones I need to go ahead and purchase new. Because again, for the last couple of years, I haven't really started seeds, you know, to an extent where I needed to keep up with this. So now I'm needing to reorganize, get rid of the ones that are not working, and go from there. So when you are buying your seeds, I'm just going to show you guys a little bit of what, you know, some of the things that I have. So I just purchased a couple or a few different pepper seeds. Okay. So one of my favorite places, and I will put some of my favorite places to purchase seeds. However, there are a lot of different places to purchase seeds. Some are going to be a little bit more expensive than others. We'll talk about that a little bit more in our next video. I kind of want to dive deeper into seed companies that I've used and, you know, my thoughts on them, and kind of give you some reference for different seed companies and kind of their price points and different things so that you can go and purchase seeds if you like. Now, again, you can purchase seeds from your big box stores. I purchased seeds from my local Sprouts. I have purchased seeds mostly online. I purchased seeds from my local Home Depot, Lowe's, garden centers, you name it, you can find seeds, okay? My local co-op. That's probably where I'm going to purchase my bean seeds, because I want to grow a lot of beans this year, and I can purchase them by the pound, which is really cool. So we'll talk more about that later. Don't worry yourself with it right now. All right, so when we are talking about seeds, this is one of my favorite companies for different options, like cool options. This is Baker Creek. What I have found, and this kind of ties into what your family eats. I was buying a lot of seeds or plants from my local nursery that were hot peppers. Well, what I found is that we eat hot peppers, but we don't really eat them a lot. So I have bags and bags of hot peppers in my freezer that are just like, what am I going to do with these? Because they're hot. We can't do a lot with them. I've made all the cowboy candy that I want. Or candy peppers or whatever they're called, that I want. And so now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dehydrating a lot of those peppers and making pepper powder as a seasoning. However, we don't eat a lot of hot peppers, so it really doesn't benefit me to grow a lot of hot peppers. So as I was beginning to kind of plan out my garden and the things that I wanted to grow, I decided to look into more sweet peppers. And I've heard that this is one of the sweetest peppers. You know, it says on the back, believed to be the sweetest of all peppers and with the thickest flesh we have seen. Lucia is a total crowd pleaser with intensely juicy textures. So now I want to show you the back of this, okay? Y'all, I'm still trying to figure out my autofocus on this camera, so I'm so sorry if this is like craziness. But if you look on the back of this, the cool thing about most packages of seeds is it's going to tell you how many days typically it takes to sprout, ideal temperature, seed depth, plant spacing, frost hardy or not, minimum full sun per day. Now, then it's also going to give you the planting instructions. As you can see, this tells me that I need to start these peppers 8 to 12 weeks before my last frost date. Now, I know, and from what I've read, and I'll verify this again, my last frost date is April 2nd of next year. 8 weeks is February 6th. 12 weeks is January something. Y'all, we're at the end of December. So when I say to you that now is probably time, like probably should have started thinking about this if you're wanting to do like tomatoes and peppers, you still have time. However, I'm saying if this is something that you're really wanting to try, and you don't have to do it on a large scale. I garden in a 45 by 45 foot garden space, and we're going to go out there. We have restructured our whole garden. We're redoing it. Me and my husband are actually going to be building beds. More beds tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit warmer, but you don't have to have a huge garden to get started. So maybe you want to, decide, hey, I'm going to buy this seed packet from Lowe's, or, I'm going to go ahead and go online and order this seed packet, and I'm going to try to start 2 pepper plants. Give it a try. Either they're going to work or they're not, but guess what? You still have time to still get to your local nursery before. And the cool thing about that is that the local nursery, they're already going to be started for you. So don't feel overwhelmed to go and start a whole package of seeds. I'm not starting a whole package of these, but I'm just saying, go ahead and get it in your mind and start thinking about it. What I will say is this, where I have, my local nursery, my local big box store, they don't have these. So the only way that I'm going to try this is if I have someone local to me that's, starting these and selling starts. Otherwise, I've got to try to do this myself. Another reason that I'm wanting to try to do, seed starts is that I really want to get back into my local farmers market, and I would love to be able to start enough plants for my family, but also start some unique things for others that may be in the position that I'm in, that maybe they want some different things but they can't start them. So that's just something to think about. I'm looking at the lipstick pepper. This one again is like a pimento type fruit, super sweet, early, and ripens well in the north. I'm not in the north, I'm in the south. However, I have watched a lot of YouTube videos of folks that use these, and they're in the south. Now, this again says 8 to 12 weeks, y'all. So it's really time to start thinking about these. This is another sweet pepper. 8 to 12 weeks, y'all. It's time to start thinking about these things. So You know, if you are thinking that you want to, this is one of my favorites, shishito peppers. Y'all, we're going to talk about all of this in another video because I promise you I will get all off subject. So don't, I'm putting it back. But if you know that you are wanting to get in some spring stuff, cabbages, your kales, your all those things. I typically direct sow my kales. However, this year I'm going to try to start some. There are some plants that really don't like for their roots to be disturbed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And what that means is that they're really recommended to not start them, because once you start messing with the roots of those started plants, then you know it could stunt them, or they may just, you know, all those things we'll talk about. All I'm saying is right now is the time to start thinking about those plants. You know, I'm looking at some of my tomato plants. This is another seed company that I love. His seed packages, this is in my gardener. I love Luke. He has a YouTube channel. I'll try to link that below. He's amazing. His seed packages are only $2 each. Amazing. Now, you're only going to get about 25 seeds in this. But y'all, I'm not growing 25 plants of Dr. Witchy's this year. So these will last me for a little bit. Cherry tomatoes. I'm going to try the Texas Land Raised Currant tomatoes. So there's just a lot of things that you really need to start thinking about now if you're wanting those veggies, because you can't just wait until it's time to plant these and then you're like, oh, I would love to try this. Now, you may just want basic things in your garden, and you may just say, you know what, I'm just going to go and pick these up. Absolutely do it. But again, still start thinking about it. If you don't have a garden space, think about where you're going to garden. Think about what your garden layout is going to look like. Are you going to container garden? Are you going to buy a couple of beds and fill those with soil? If that's the case, you need to start thinking about your soil. You need to think about, are you going to mix your soil? Are you going to have a big enough space to purchase soil that needs to be delivered to you? And start looking into those things, because trust me, there are people looking for soil just like you are right now. Stores will sell out of good soil. Make sure that you are on top of it so that you're not just settling for soil that doesn't work well. And maybe I should do a video of that. I've went through a lot of different soil in my gardening experience, and I'm not here to bash any of them, but I will say that there have been some that have worked a lot better for me than others. So again, something you need to be thinking about, because you're not just talking about starting a seed at this point. You have to start a seed in the soil. And so you need to know that the soil that you're starting your seeds in, whether it's a starter mix or a potting soil, is the best for your seed starting. So again, start looking into those things and planning, and also getting your seeds while the companies still have them. A lot of gardeners went through, and I was one of them, seed starting companies, especially when things went on in the world. You could not find seeds. They were running out of seeds left and right because people really started to garden. I was one of those people. And so the next year or so, you couldn't find seeds. And even on top of that, if you choose to preserve your food, that's another thing you need to start thinking about as well, because the amount of plants that you're going to start, you really need to think about, do I want to preserve these tomatoes? Do I want to preserve these peppers? Am I growing enough to be able to preserve enough for a year's worth of food, or to be able to give them away as gifts? So y'all, there's a lot to think about when you're going into why you're doing this. But I would honestly say start working on whether it's your canning items, and I'll actually put a link to one of my favorite lids, 4 jars lids that I've used for a while. They are amazing. But start thinking about those things. Don't wait until the spring season, because the spring season, most everyone is going to be getting their stuff before then. So you really need to start thinking about what you're going to do before that time comes. All right. Now, another thing that you really need to be thinking about as well if you're going to be starting seeds, you need to figure out which seeds need a lot of heat and which ones don't, and the tools that you need for those. Now, when I talk about that, you know, I talked about starting your peppers, and I talked about starting like cabbages and brassicas. Now, when I talk about brassicas, the brassica family, that's something that you can go and look up. That's going to be like your cabbages, your, I believe kale is in that, your broccolis, your cauliflower, I believe Brussels sprouts, and I may be wrong, y'all. So if I'm wrong, that's okay. Just go do your own research. Lettuces, if you decide to start your own lettuces, some people start lettuces. I typically direct sow my own lettuce. However, this upcoming year, I'm going to be trying some different things and starting some different things that I typically would not start. Lettuce may be one of those things. You need to know what plants are heat-loving plants and what plants are not. Typically with my peppers, my tomatoes, those type of plants, those plants need to be under grow lights on a heat mat the whole time that they're inside. Okay. Brassicas, one thing that I messed up and I kept burning my starts is that cabbages, broccolis, those type of things don't need to sit on heat the whole time. They just need the heat to germinate, and then you can remove the heat. I didn't know that. I didn't do the research on it. So that was something that I had to go back and research. And again, I recommend that you go and research these things. Even when I am watching YouTube videos, I watch them, but I also do the research for myself. So if you know that you're going to be starting tomatoes, peppers, or actually any of your plants, most likely you're going to need a heat mat. Now, you can get a heat mat off of Amazon. I will link mine in the description below. Some are better than others. You need to decide whether or not you need a big one, a regular size one, and wherever you decide that you're going to set up your grow station, you need to make sure that you have plugs for that. You need to make sure that whatever heat mats or, you know, however many you need, you have those on hand, because those plants are going to need that. So definitely be looking into that. You know, whether you're going to be using shelving, a greenhouse, your lamps, your lights. Again, once I get mine set up, I am going to be showing you my complete setup. And you know, you can decide to do yours that way, or you can decide a different way. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So we'll talk more about that in a different video. All right. So once you have gotten all of that down pat, you've kind of decided, okay, this is what I need. This is where I'm going to set everything up. This is what is going to work. I'm going to do these plants as seeds, you know, as seeds that I'm going to start. I'm going to maybe do half and half, however you want to do it. Then the next thing that you really need to be thinking about is what soil or starter mix to use. Now, I've done this several different ways. I have purchased just regular seed starting mix from my local Home Depot. Just know that with seed starting mix, it is going to be fluffy. It's going to be that really fluffy stuff, which I really absolutely love. However, seed starting mix is just that. It typically does not have a lot of nutrients in it. It doesn't have, you know, like fertilizers or anything like that that your plants are going to need over time as they're getting bigger. So a lot of people opt to use straight compost. Some people opt to use just regular potting soil. I personally have had a better experience with just regular potting soil. I typically like to use the potting soil that I use for my green stalks, and it works perfectly fine. Just know that when you get potting soil, it's going to have a lot more like of the bigger pieces in it. Now, with the starter mix, you can absolutely take that starter mix, pour it out into a bucket, add some fertilizers, some slow release fertilizers in there, some, you know, vermiculite or perlite in it for, you know, like aeration or whatever. I think that's what it's for. I may be wrong with that. Or just buy, you know, I've seen some that just buy compost that they get, you know, you can get on Amazon. I've heard a lot about the Vermont compost, and I think that I may actually try that this year for my seed starts. But there's a lot of different options, you know, when you're talking about what, you know, the soil that you're going to use. Going back to what materials you use. Are you going to want to use just like the 6 tray containers? Are you going to want to use the bigger containers to where you don't have to pot them up multiple times? Do you want to use a soil blocker to where you can start them just in soil and not in a tray? What about your underwatering trays? Because with seed starts, you really want to water under the bottom. And again, we'll go into all of this. So you just want to make sure that you have everything you need, but also know that you do not have to go out and spend $1 million for this type of stuff. Y'all, you can get red solo cups from the Dollar Tree to start your seeds in. You can buy containers and put holes in those cups. You can put holes in the cup. You always want to have drainage, but you can buy, I wish I had one here, like the little foil trays that you can get from Dollar Tree that you would cook in, and you can sit your cups in there. So we're going to go over some options for seed starting, because I also don't want you to think that you have to purchase like all these crazy things. Now, because I've been growing for a lot of years, I have cups and containers and trays and things just from where I've purchased, you know, my starts and different stuff. And I've accumulated these things over the years. However, some of my starts I still put in those red solo cups. The cool thing about red solo cups is if you are starting, let's say, a tomato plant, you don't have to up pot that. You know, you think about it, if you have like a small little 6-cell container, it's going to be about this big wide, this big tall. As your tomato starts to grow up, because tomatoes can get really big inside, you're going to have to pot that up into a bigger pot, because those roots are going to get root bound if you don't. And so if you start super small, then go a little bit bigger, then a little bit bigger, you're going to be up potting a lot more than you want to. If you start in those red solo cups, you can, you know, basically start your tomato, and then you can, because with tomatoes, and this is a whole nother video, they have roots, and wherever the soil touches those roots, they're going to continue to grow more roots, and you can just add soil on top of that. So again, think about those things. Think about how you're wanting to start your plants. And again, if you guys are interested, we can do a video on just some options that you can have for what you can start in. There are people that start theirs in toilet paper rolls. They keep all of their brown toilet paper rolls. There are people that start in newspapers. You can roll those up and make them, you know, so there's so many options. Seed starting does not have to be expensive. Now, I know that we said that we were going to do 5 things that you need to be thinking about right now, but I have to say this before we end the video. You also, as you start to collect your seed packages, now you may not be anywhere near where I am with the amount of seeds that I have, but I will say this: these containers have been a lifesaver for me. I am able to basically separate mine by container and what I have. All of my leafy greens, lettuces, and different things, kales, are in here. And so that is just a way to keep my seeds organized. You really want to keep them organized. If you think about it, you open up a seed package and then you just put it in a Ziploc bag. Well, you run the risk of the seeds falling out, and then you don't, because so many seeds look alike, you don't want to do that. Now, right now I have mine in here. However, I've been watching several YouTube videos on how I want to organize my seeds, and even beyond this. So I purchased a couple more of these from my local Michael's. I know right now, at least through tomorrow, today's Friday, so I'm not really sure beyond tomorrow, but they are 70% off. So I was able to get this for $12, and I did get a Michael's gift card, so these were paid for with the Michael's gift card. I am actually going to be starting to separate my seeds into containers based on the weeks and the days that I plan to sow them. I'm also going to be, the reason I got 2 is because I think that I want to separate each container into whether or not it needs to be direct sown or started. That's a whole nother video, and we'll talk about that as well. But I wanted to just give you guys some ideas on what you can be thinking about right now. If you are really interested in growing your own food and you think that you are ready to take that step into growing your own food, you can do it. It's not as hard as you think. All you need is a space to do it, some soil, some seeds, and plants just want to grow. Y'all, I'm going into 4 years of growing. This is my second property to grow on. I've never had a huge gardening space, and that's by choice. We are on about 2 acres, but I choose to only use about 40 by 40, a little over 40 for my garden space, because I don't want to get too overwhelmed with this huge garden space. And to be honest, I could grow more food than we could even keep in our house. But there's a lot of different ways that I am working on this upcoming year on making sure that I use every space of my garden to benefit my family. So as much as I want to say that I'm a, I know I don't want to. So let me take that back. I am not a pro at this. You can garden for years and years and years and still every single garden season learn something new. I tell people all the time, like the first thing that people say when they hear me say that I garden, like for instance, when I was at my local Michael's and I was picking up these containers, the first thing the lady said was, "Oh, I know that you guys have tomatoes growing out of your ears." And I said, "No, we don't." In 4 years, I've never had the best tomato harvest ever. I've had a great harvest of cucumbers. We've done really well with our lettuces, with our leafy greens, our fall crops. But tomatoes have been something that, now last year we were okay, but I have yet to grow a year's worth of tomatoes for my family, because we love to make our own sauces, chili bases, all the things, and to be able to give to our families and our neighbors and all those things. And so one of the things that I'm really working on this upcoming year is making sure that the soil that I have, that I've really cultivated that soil and that it works for me. And we also decided to expand our garden space. We only had 8 3x6 beds, and that just wasn't enough space for us to be able to grow the amount of tomatoes and everything else that we wanted. So we scrapped all of that. I sold all of my beds, and this will be in another video. I sold all of my wood beds. I had metal beds. I sold those. And we took that money and we put it into better wood. We put it into landscape fabric because we dealt with weeds so bad. And we took the space that we had and we mulled over it a lot to try to figure out how we could expand it to work best for us. So instead of having smaller beds, we have created at least 6 16-foot beds and some 10-foot beds and some 8-foot beds and some all the things, and we still have space to put other beds inside. Another thing that I really want to do this upcoming summer or garden season is I really want to get into planting more flowers. I've never planted, I have seeds from the flowers, I think. Where are they coming from? Y'all, I have seeds falling out of my flower box. I was honestly thinking, what is all over me? I felt something on my leg and it's actually seeds, and I don't even know where these seeds are coming from. But anyway, distraction, attraction. Look at this. There are seeds coming out of somewhere and I've got to figure that out. I was just in here. I think it's my snapdragons. Yep, it's my snapdragons. Y'all, look at this. When I talk about getting seeds, these seeds are 4 for $1 at Dollar Tree. And let me tell you, yes, they work. Yes, every seed that I've ever purchased from my local Dollar Tree has been amazing. Anyway, another thing, as I was saying, that I really want to work hard on this upcoming garden season is creating a space for pollinators. Now, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I am not the biggest fan of bees and wasps. So for me, I don't want them in my garden. However, I know I need them in my garden. So creating a space, even if it is on the perimeters, and we're working on that as well. We've created a space to where we can actually put flower boxes and different things like that. So that's a lot of what we're working on, but that has taken us years to really get that going and decide this is what we need for our garden. So I just encourage you to think about some of the things that you want to do. Maybe you only want to do container gardening. That's okay. Go and get you some containers. You can get 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's or Home Depot. Put some holes in it, fill them up. You can grow tomatoes in a 5-gallon bucket, y'all. There's a lot of options like green stalk. I had 4 green stalks now. I decided this year that we really didn't use them well, and so I sold them to a lady that really wanted to do mostly container gardening, vertical gardening, and since I wasn't using them, I sold those so that I could fund my wood for my new beds. And eventually I would love to get back into having maybe a green stalk or 2, but I just didn't need 4. But maybe that is something that will work better for you to invest in. And maybe you just want to get some, smaller metal beds. I purchased, and I'll put this in the description as well, I have a couple of metal beds that I purchased on Amazon for $37. No, I think they were on sale for like $27. And they work just fine. I'm actually going to be using those outside of my kitchen window as a kitchen garden, so for my herbs and different stuff like that. So there are so many options, y'all. You don't have to have a huge space. You don't have to start out big. You don't have to have everything together. You could do in-ground beds if that works better for you. So I just encourage you to start. If it is really important for you to know where your family's food is coming from, to do this for health reasons, health benefits, and to just have food security, y'all. Let's just be honest. We don't know what this world is going to be or how things are going to go. So having food security is a very important thing. And that's one of the reasons for me that I really wanted to do this. And so I've just had to really get back into the simple reason as to why we started gardening, and that is what I'm working on. And following these steps starting now, that's really where you need to be. So that's my list, y'all. We checked off the list. I will have more coming up in a couple of other videos, but I really hope that this information was beneficial to you. I hope that something that I said has been helpful, and that you take some of this and you start to use it in your own garden space or your own homesteading space. So anyway, friends, I hope this was helpful. If it was, I hope that you will consider giving this video a thumbs up, following and subscribing to my channel. We'll have more videos coming soon. And again, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I hope that this upcoming garden season is everything that you could ever want. And I just hope that you're able to find the tools and the resources that you need, and that I can help encourage you along the way. So until we talk again, make it a great day, friends. Have a great one. Bye.